Welcome to the Brotherhood of the Bengal podcast. Today, we're going to hit on some free agencies. What will the Bengals do? What won't they do? Franchise tag season is in play. Nothing's happened yet. Some big names out there potentially receiving the tag. That'll be interesting to see how it plays out, including the Bengals' former, sort of, maybe, defensive end Trey Henderson. Number one on most free agent boards. We're going to talk about the NFL draft, multiple mock drafts out there, including mine, which will hit the newsstands if it hadn't already. I forgot to check that. Shame on me. And we're going to talk about sleepers and Mel Kiper's comment on Fernando Mendoza, among many other things, next on the Brotherhood of the Bengal podcast.
Brotherhood of the Bengal. Brotherhood of the Bengal. In the river fog we gather, striped and bound by autumn.
What's up, Stevie boy?
Not much. Another day of some technical difficulties, but we're going to get these things ironed out. I promise.
Yeah, we apologize for the sound quality. We are working on it. It's kind of tough, again, like Steve said, over and over again. We do it in person, which we prefer. It's kind of fun, and when you do that, you get some tech difficulties. So with microphones picking up each other and whatnot, and outside, of course, it brings up a whole new slew of problems with wind and everything else. Prefer outside, and we will be back outside when it's a little warmer. A little chilly this morning on this Saturday, February 21st. 2 weeks away, I believe we changed time. It's going to be cold this week, but
Yep.
we are getting there, Stevie boy. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Not feeling the greatest this morning, but you know what? I'm here on a Saturday morning. I got here a good hour and a half ago, probably. But we're how would you say, pushing through it, pushing through the issues,
push.
and pushing on to 2026. Cincinnati Bengals New Year is coming.
Yep, it is, and I will say, and I'll chalk it up to how you're feeling, perhaps. But you were a rare bird last week, and now you're kind of back to your normal grumpy self. So there is that.
I'm in a great mood. Can't you tell?
I can. You were talking about satisfying customers, and I didn't know you were. So it was a little disturbing. So mock drafts galore, free agents. We're going to start with the free agency. We're going to do a compare contrast on the 2021 Bengals to the 2026 Bengals as it stands right now. In the near future, we'll dig a little deeper. But something you will notice as we talk about that's kind of the emergence of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and the Bengals that we thought we were going to have for multiple years. Let's be honest, right? That was the growing season. Went a little further than they thought. It's kind of been all downhill from there. But the thing you'll notice, and we'll get into it deeper, is that philosophically they were hitting the free agent market. And that changed somewhere along the way, right? And it's hurt them. Your thoughts on that, Steve? I don't know if they did it intentionally. Only they know that. But it's like there was a paradigm shift within the building there at Paycor. Hey, we're going to build through the draft now. Heck with free agency. And really what got them there was a combination of the two, and really heavy on free agents on that roster. Do you think they'll get back to that? I think they will under the pressure. Your thoughts, Steve Ed boy?
Yeah, I think the pressure is going to make him do it this year. But honestly, I think Lou had some to do with that. He didn't want to play the young guys. Dax Hill still on the bench. He got 10 snaps or whatever it was that first year. He didn't want to play the younger guys. They had their veterans. Then when they was switching, I guess their tune, it didn't come quite out what I think they thought. And then once they had investment, and then it was like, okay, we've already invested. We got to bring in somebody that that will hopefully start to develop these guys. And it's just it's not happened. But some of these guys were young, Scott. Miles Murphy was 20 years old. I mean, he's still like 23, going to be
Not a
24.
project there,
You,
right?
you know what I mean? So when they're young like this, it just takes them a while. It takes them a while to grow in their body. It takes them a while to get it in the NFL. You hope that's not the case, but I think that's exactly what's happened. Luden, he just didn't want to play these young guys, so therefore they went out and they spent in free agency, and then they had draft capital. They already had guys here they wanted to see, and honestly, I had brought it up. I had brought it up a few years ago that it's actually the beginning of last year that they've got these young guys. We got to see what they can do. Jenkins, Jackson, all them guys. Well, I think we've seen what they can do, and it's not enough. But that's not saying that they won't develop. But that doesn't necessarily help them last year, as we've seen, or this year coming up. And if it takes too much time, that's where 2026 is different, right? Like it has to be this year. I mean, you can't keep pushing it down the road. It can't happen.
Nope, kicking the can. And I think, I always use that old Pittsburgh philosophy way back when. They'd draft guys, and a lot of times they wouldn't play out of the gate, right? But they'd play in situational roles. But the reason was they had experienced veterans leaders in the locker room, right? It all hit the wall at the same time. And should they have forecasted that? Probably. Their veterans got old, quit producing as much, and then you had all the young guys that weren't ready, right? It's a perfect scenario to lose, right? Destruction. Your veterans fall off. You see Logan Wilson now, which we'll talk about shortly. So they all hit that wall, and then the young guys weren't ready yet. So they didn't time it up right.
No.
You want those young guys behind them, and they drafted to replace guys instead of thinking that through. Which we don't need to hit on the Jesse Bates thing again. So it was a microcosm of the last 2 years, and just a bunch of young guys making a ton of young guy mistakes, and it's not really even young guy mistakes. It's a little bit of that, but it's just really bad football, right? Not ready, and maybe not good enough, quite frankly. I think that's probably the bigger issue there, and that's
and I think this year it is the telling season, in my opinion. I mean,
make or break.
Yeah, and with Jenkins, he broke his hand or whatever, right? So that was almost like a half season. He's rehabbing. Like there's different things that were going on in that year. So Jackson didn't get no playing time. Like he started getting a little bit more run toward the end of last year. So not only was these guys maybe not talented enough, and the fact that they didn't play early enough snaps. Then you factor in the fact that, maybe when it comes down to, whether, these old guys that, like you just said, start to hit a wall, they're not prepared. So nothing sank up. It was just, it's been a train wreck.
Yeah, it was. That's two of the worst defensive seasons you ever see.
Yes.
I looked at, and some of it's Zach, some of it's not, but, Zach's got the tied for the worst record, I think, in the history of the Bengals, in his first year, right? And that was a bad team. Worst loss in team history. You start looking at his resume, it's like, oh my gosh, the fact that they're the only ones back in the division is mind-boggling, but that's where we're at, right? And, you can blame the players, you can blame whoever you want, but ultimately it's him coaching and Duke Tobin selecting that really messed this up. And, I'm not going to harp on it too much, but they were given the golden key, right? The key to everything in Burrow and then Chase. He's a really good player, but Burrow and Chase are elite. So you were given that. You've got all that talent, and you still haven't produced. Whoa, Burrow didn't play. Look at the win percentage. I'm not going to go over it again, but when he is playing, right, it's a 9-win team. That's not good enough. So the fact they're all back is mind-boggling. And that, we're going to look at real quick. We're going to go through the AFC North free agents. I'll feed up a few names, and we can discuss it. So for the Bengals' perspective, Tanner Hudson's back. Jalen Davis is back. Davis played, right at 25% of snaps, but that increased dramatically as the year went on. Tanner Hudson, 13% of snaps. We all like him when he plays. He just didn't really get much run. Giles Harris, Isaiah Foskey, Cam Grandy, Tinsley they brought back. He's good for those splash plays. But the more and more I broke down film, I think I talked about it. I reviewed 5 games of Yoshi, who's just a horrible route runner. Tinsley's better with the ball in the air, but he creates no separation either. Neither one of them are true slots, so I think they need to look at that. They brought him back, Shaka Hayward. P.J. Jules showed something. So free agent-wise, who's out there? Top of the list, of course, is Trey Hendrickson for the Bengals. Played only 26% of the snaps due to injury. Osai at 56%. Geno Stone. I talked to a guy this week. He said if they bring Stone back, I said you don't have to worry about it. I'm never watching another game. It's not my cousin either. So Geno Stone played 93% of the snaps. 27 years old. Of course, Flacco, Fant, Cordell Volson, Lucas Patrick, Marco Wilson, Dalton Risner, who you and I both want back, Cam Sample, and then I want to talk about a guy, Cam Taylor-Britt. So that's a guy who looked like the arrow was pointing up, right? And he's just fell off the map. And you read about some of the off the field stuff. Jeez, oh Pete, man, he's not coming. I can't imagine he's coming back. You see a lot of teams forecasting a potential corner there. So I'll rack in the corner discussion with Cam Taylor-Britt, and we'll talk about if there's any free agents you want back. I want Risner back. The rest of them, Geno might be, or Joe Flacco might be all right, but I like his side back. I don't think you can bring him back for what he's going to get. But getting to the corners, I believe they think they have the solution with Dax Hill and DJ Turner, and then Jalen Davis in the slot. Your thoughts on the corner situation, Cam Taylor-Britt, and are there any of their own free agents you want back outside of Risner?
None of them are moving the needle. I mean, Risner's by far, they need to keep that continuity, right? They were playing, I mean, they were an above average, offensive line last year, and they could get better. Fairchild should get a little bit better. Mims, if Mims gets better, I mean, he could be all pro. I mean, let's be honest.
He's young, still developing.
Yeah. So, and Orlando is who Orlando is. He has good moments, he has bad moments. So, but as far as the market goes, when you look at him, I mean, really, $21 million for a starting left tackle, excuse me, is fine. You know what I mean? For what because he's basically being paid right now like a slightly above average left tackle, and that's what he is. So yeah, really the only one is Risner. Corner wise, I thought about this a lot too between my mock drafts and what's been falling to me and those mock drafts. And dude, it doesn't look good. I mean, it really doesn't look good that one of those three could be there. You know what I mean? Downs is by far the one that reaches me the most, but you're probably talking maybe 30% of the time. You just hope that because he plays safety, that drops him, and maybe his size. I mean, I still think he's fine, but some may not. Excuse me. But but other than that, if it come down to it, because we're all seeing what's there. I mean, it just maybe you said it last week. Sometimes the players just aren't there, and you have to do whatever you got to do at that spot, right? And because they won an extra couple games, they're at 10 instead of 7. So if it goes corner, I mean, look, you never can have too many corners. You can just about bet that Dax will miss a game, that something's going to happen to where DJ is going to miss some time. I mean, you just never know. So having that extra guy and corner is that value spot. It wouldn't break my heart, especially if they pick corner over one of those three guys, then I'm tore up, right? But if it's just they're one of these 2 or 3 guys that's up there is there, then they're go ahead and take them or move down, even if it's just a spot or two to get an extra 4th. I mean, so be it.
Yeah, I think the offensive line, which I think most people will say they played pretty well this year, which I agree for the most part.
They did.
Bengals were the 4th worst rushing team in total yards last year, and they averaged 4.2 a carry. Not good.
4.2 is not awful. You want like 4.6, and more explosives, right? I thought from
one of the worst teams.
I thought from week 8 on, I thought they started running the ball a lot better. When Flacco came in, I thought they ran the ball a little bit better. Beginning of the year, it killed them as far as total yards and all that kind of thing. You're talking, 35-40% of the season. They was awful. Like they was not a good running team. I thought it picked up. I mean, Chase had a good year, but they're just not going to run the ball. I mean, they're always going to be at the bottom because they're not going to run the ball. They're going to throw the ball 35, 40 times. That's what they're going to do.
They were 12th worst or 10th, tied for 10th worst in terms of yards per carry as well. So yeah, they had some moments, but I think part of that's the way Chase Brown runs as well, which we talked about. So you look at Baltimore. I'll go over their free agents real quick, and then we'll go through the league. Draymond Jones, who I wouldn't mind seeing in Cincinnati. So they've got a whole list of free agents. The Ricard. None of these guys really stand out outside of Tyler Linderbaum. So I saw somebody break down film on him. The thing I'm doing, he was breaking down film on him. Man, he's good.
Yeah,
he's
good.
not physical, and he'll get with hold his ground a little bit with tough guys and anchor, but get a little bit manhandled at times. But man, when it comes to technique and getting out, that dude is beast. And if they lose him, that's big time, right? I don't think they've got the cap space to franchise him or anything. And how they do the offensive line franchise numbers is stupid, the same way they do linebackers. So that's a big loss for them. Vallely's out there, Kohler, some of those. Isaiah Likely's probably going to walk. He showed potential a few years ago. Old Bengal Cheeto. So not a lot of big names there for Baltimore. But the one big one, man, Linderbaum walks, that's going to hurt him.
Yeah, it will hurt him. And before I understand, they're not close. And they're in discussions, but they're not close.
Yeah. And you look at, he's going to want money, and they're looking ahead for the Lamar Jackson extension, right? So it's big time. And, with Mentor there, they're going to be looking at some defensive players as well, try to reshape that side of the ball. And then Cleveland, Batonio's getting up there, 35 years old, still played almost 100% of the snaps. What a career. Wyatt Taylor's had a lot of injuries, but at one point he was as good as any guard, right guard in the league, right? Devin Bush kind of bounced back. I'd take him over the Bengals linebackers.
Yeah.
Jerome Ford, Baker, a lot of guys. You don't need to go through the whole list, but not
Cheeto, it wouldn't bother me because he didn't have an awful year.
He was all right.
I mean, you don't bring him back. You just bring him back just for depth.
Depth. They need depth there. And the Browns are losing Njoku too, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to keep him now with the rookie they drafted. He's 30 years old, but he made some plays, and Conklin's always hurt. So not a lot of loss there, but a really bad team. We transfer over to Pittsburgh, who's got significant potential changes there, especially the bug that keeps on biting in them, which is quarterback, right?
Yep.
So you got Aaron Rodgers is out. Kyle Duggar's now 30. I thought he played okay for him when they traded him. Suamola, the left guard, Thielen's old Killebrew's up there now. Just a bunch of old guys. I thought Gainwell played pretty well for him as a back. But nobody there that, outside of the quarterback position that's really going to make or break what they're losing, right? So the division overall kind of the same in terms of what's out there. Bengals probably a little less to lose than what the other teams do, especially Baltimore and Linderbaum, but that's going to be an interesting piece of it. And now we look, Stevie Boy, at the top free agents out there on The Athletic's got a list. Pete Prisco did his top 100 plus. I'll tell you some guys I like here shortly. On the cover, you got Daniel Jones, Trey Hendrickson, and, of course, Walker from Seattle, the running back. It's tough. I think I heard somebody comparing quarterbacks like I think they were talking about Mendoza, and they're talking about running like Daniel Jones. I think that's lunacy to me. Well, Daniel Jones can only run straight ahead, too. I'm not sure what sport you're watching. That might be the case now with the Achilles injury. Daniel Jones is athletic, right?
Very.
To the point where it hurts him because that's how he just runs. He can wiggle, man. He's a good athlete. Got Brees Hall, Jalen Phillips would be nice. Devin Lloyd would be the best of the top guys that you would see in terms of fitting the Bengals' needs, and then Linderbaum, right? Of the top 10, it's mostly skill position. Etienne, Willis, Walker, Mike Evans, older Daniel Jones, Devin Lloyd. Jalen Phillips would be nice here too. Of the top 10, Trey Hendrickson, number 1. I think Lloyd's the best fit. I don't see the Bengals even sniffing on the top 10. Your thoughts?
No, I don't either. What we have to watch out for is cap casualties. That's probably what's going to come probably more up where they're probably going to look at is up that street is where are those guys going to be cut from? Are they going to be in position of need for them before the draft comes around? Sometimes those caps come after the draft, right, which sucks, but
there's a lot of cap that's got to be met on that New Year Day, right? March 9th, whatever that is.
Yep.
Teams are going to have to do stuff. Like we saw Kansas City, there'll be a lot of restructuring for sure. The interesting one, I think the highest ranked guy on this list anyway that the Bengals would look at would be John Franklin Myers. I watched a lot of his tape because of games that I have to watch receivers in. And, That defense was nasty for Denver, man. I tell you, Knicks have been healthy. This whole thing might look a little different. That Denver defense is nasty, and he was one of the big pieces of it. Alontae Taylor from the Saints. I like Wendell Robinson as a slot. I think the Bengals need to look at slots. Byer's a little old. So that's kind of the list here. But I'll venture away from the list, get to my spreadsheet here, and tell you some guys I like. Quay Walker, off the ball linebacker, so he's not going to command as much. Kobe Bryant, I love as a safety from Seattle. And then my sleeper, who we talked about several weeks ago, is Greg Newsome, right? And on the athletics list anyway, he's 125th. So you talked about money. I said he's not going to demand him. He's not.
No, he's not.
But I would take him, before I'd take a corner in the top 12 in this draft, given their roster, I would rather pick up Newsome. Your thoughts on Kobe Bryant, Newsome, another safety, of course, Brian Cook from Kansas City, Jaquan Brisker from Chicago, and Reed Blankenship, who we talked about. Who's the choice out of those guys you'd like?
Man, I like Kobe Bryant, and the reason why is because he's got to be super intelligent. So for him to go from corner, played corner all through college, and then basically just go and say, hey, we need you to switch, and then for him to play as well as he played, that tells you, one, how athletic, and two, how intelligent he actually is. And that's what they need. They need somebody back there that is super intelligent, that can control that back end. And I think he's worth a shot, dude. And I don't think he's going to cost a ton. I don't know what over cap would put him at, but
I think he's going to be in demand.
I mean, if it's 10 to 12 to 13, I do that. I think they need that help. If it's more than that, you should just kept Jesse Bates. But I mean,
Bates was first or second team All Pro, right? So
yeah,
big whiff, and they've been trying to correct that ever since. That's the thing, man. You put that kind of confidence in yourself and you replace a player like that. The vast majority of the time, you're not going to, right? So.
Remember, he plays safety too, and the league just doesn't look at safeties the same like they do everybody else.
They should, especially
they
now.
Should. I'm not
guys that can cover like Branch, those kind of guys. But people have compared Downs to Branch. I don't see that, but I think for me, I'd still go after Kobe Bryant. He lays some thump too, man. He brings it. I think he'd be a player. Brisker's more in the box, which I like. Brian Cook played very well for Kansas City.
I like Brian Cook.
Reed Blankenship too. I liked him as well. Guy, I like it. It's a risk because of the way he plays. So, Hufanga, I think is the guy's name from Denver. He's a safety now. I loved him coming out of college. Worried about him getting hurt. I loved him when he was a free agent. Bengals didn't bite. Denver did. He's an All-Pro this year. But the injury concern's always there because he's a Tasmanian devil, right? Nakobe Dean reminds me that way. Different position, linebacker, undersized. He's just everywhere. You get him, he's 25, 20, I think he's 26 years old for the Bengals. Kobe Dean is infinitely better than the linebackers they have now. But there is an asterisk there, right? Because he's had injury history. So that's a tough one. And then I think they need to look at slot receiver. And I think Calvin Austin would be that you keep going through, our offensive fine, but there are games when it's T and Chase only, especially getting the playoffs. You're playing higher tier teams, right? Teams aren't just going to go out there and let those two beat you, especially Jamar, right? And I think a Calvin Austin would come cheap. Wayndale Robinson, I like him better for sure, but he's going to cost a little bit more. So slot and linebacker, I think they need to look at. And, the biggest weaknesses on the team are defensive tackle, I think. Edge, you could say. It's going to be tough to find that free agent. Safety's just awful. I'd get two safeties that we talked about. Your thoughts on the question is, will they hit the safety position to someone we like in free agent? I'll leave my opinion until you give yours. Will they get a slot, and will they sign a defensive lineman that actually we're happy with? Your thoughts?
Safety, they will sign somebody because they're not going to have one. But But no, I don't think they will. I think they will sign one and free agency. I just don't know if it's going to be one of the guys that we like. Now, if that's not the case, then hell yeah. I mean, let's go. That means we're changing something. We're doing something. As far as D tackle, no. I mean, I can't see him. I can't see him spending a ton of money. And there's hardly any linemen. I mean, the tackles are super thin. I don't know. It's just not a good free agency for linemen. I
It
mean,
rarely is. 'Cause
right. I mean, and then they're going to be in demand. So then their price is going to be higher than what their value should be. But are they going to be willing to pay that extra dollar to outbid somebody for someone that? But let's be honest, that they've got to improve and to be honest, almost every position. I mean, if you look at linebacker, D tackle, edge, safety, like they're all like below average spots. So if you give me average or slightly above average play at each of those positions, you're probably going to be better. And then hope that the Golden can do something with these guys, put them in the right position, be more aggressive. I get it that you want to rush before. I understand. That's where the league is now. They don't want to do a bunch of blitz and all that. But sometimes when you have to, and I think we've seen last year toward the end of the season when he started being more aggressive, they were playing better. It wasn't a lot better, but you could tell that. And Davis was a big part of that. But I mean, I think he's 30 years old. You know what I mean? So so it's not like he's 25 years old and up and coming. I think now he's just got his shot, and that was a 1-year deal. I've seen that yesterday, which is fine. I mean, yeah, it's fine.
Darius Washington's out there too, that banged up guy that's smallish. Played at Baltimore last year, was kind of in demand. So you look at, we talked about Christian Ellis, like the chance to find guys like that. He was cut 4 or 5 times, and he goes to New England, and I think the Raiders offered him a contract, and New England had the right to match, and they did it. Now he's rich, right? That guy's rare, but he bounced around. Nobody, sometimes you'll find those diamonds in the rough, but they're
A BJ Hill.
They're exception, huh?
A BJ Hill.
Absolutely. So if you had to predict one player that they will sign in free agency that's not a Bengal currently or from their roster, who do you think that's going to be?
I think Blankenship is probably more likely. Yeah, I would go with Blankenship as a safety. I know that's one of the guys we like, so I guess I'm kind of talking about both sides of my mouth there. But as I'm looking at the list, I can't. Yeah, I keep looking at safety because I truly believe they want to go into the draft and they want to be able to pick best available. And if Downs is there at 10, I still think they want to be set at safety because you can do so much. You can do 3 safety looks and do different things. So yeah, I'll say Blankenship. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. I don't think they'll go big on Kobe Bryant. Some of the sleeper guys you can't really top. Brian Cook. I think if they pick one of them, unfortunately, that's who I was going to say too is Blankenship. I think he fits what they're trying to do. Get somebody on the deep end with experience, instead of in the box, quote unquote in the box safety, kind of old school way of thinking. So it's going to be an interesting free agency. You got Daniel Jones and some other big names out there that are in contract negotiations are going to be, like we said, Linderbaum. How are these guys going to go? Linderbaum, if he hits the open market, which I think he's going to, somebody's going to pay him big money, right? So. And I wish the Bengals were in a position to do that. Karras is getting up there, right? You got some age on that line right now. So people keep saying they've got needs at guard and stuff. If they sign Risner, Rivers was okay, and you got Fairchild. I just don't. I think that's people that don't watch Bengals play, right? I think they fall back onto wow, you got to protect Burrow. They never had. That really wasn't the case last year. You know what I mean? You get that implanted in your head, kind of like the Bengals are cheap, right? You get that planted in the head of the national media because it's been there forever. And I don't think that's the issue right now. I think the issue is they're bad evaluators, right? And they're very poor evaluators. That's been the issue. And not being aggressive enough sometimes in free agency, certainly. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think we'll transition to the draft. We'll look at some players I like and talk about some of the mock drafts. So some guys who you were trying to talk about, and you bumbled it up there. The Skyler Bell, I believe, from UConn. That's where I was trying to go.
That's where I was trying to go.
Lost it. I had to mumble through and try to think, what the hell is he talking about? But that's it. And I kind of like him as well. Hidden free agent, Leo Chanel. You remember him from Wisconsin, played Kansas City. He's a physical backer. He's not going to, draw any accolades or anything from his coverage skills. I think he's okay. But I'd take him in a second over Barrett Carter. You follow me? Everybody in the middle, just roughing up the run game, diving in. taking on blocks, opposite night. I would take him in a second. I don't think they will. All right, to the draft. So Mel Kiper Jr. Mel Kiper Jr. Hit and miss. Always been kind of hit and miss on him. He said something to the effect, which I don't think it's an if now, the Raiders take Fernando Mendoza, they're getting a guaranteed star. I don't see that when I watch the game. I like him. I think he's gritty. I think he's funny. I think he's a workaholic. I don't think he's got the best arm in the world. I think under pressure, and I don't mean pressure as at the end of the game, but I think under pressure on people around him, I think he holds the ball, takes sacks. I don't think he gets rid of the ball when he should. I think a lot of their offense was a lot of his success, honestly, right? I see Jared Goff, and what's the biggest complaint about Goff coming out still this day? You get people around his feet, man. And it's hard to do now with Detroit, because their line's been really good. But in games when it's not that way, he's pretty shaky, right? And he's below average, really. So that's what I see in Mendoza. But I think he is a great fit for Kubiak. And you got Genti and Brock Bowers, of course, and they upgrade. I think it's the right pick, but I don't see a guaranteed star. I don't see a guaranteed top 10 quarterback, top 15 even. Your thoughts on Mendoza as well?
I mean, that's the difference between a Joe Burrow and a Mendoza, or a Joe Burrow and a Jared Goff, right? It's the pocket awareness. I mean, Joe is like next level pocket awareness.
Yep.
And I don't think any quarterback likes pressure in their face, but he is so good, especially like I've said before, when he sees that pressure, especially to his front side, he really does a good job, especially if that end is coming so deep that he's able to get to the right. And you've seen, I don't know how many times we've seen him do it where he just leaks out, right? And he misses like 2 or 3, 4. Well, that's not Goff. We'll see if Mendoza kind of creeps into that and gets better. I mean, because that's something you can get better at. But I'm telling you this, it's not something that you learn and you become a perfectionist at. Joe Burrow was wired. He's built like that. You see what I'm saying? Like he did in college. He was all over the place in college. I mean, those plays, I can't remember the team that was like Ole Miss, Mississippi. He's got like 7 guys around him. He's sitting there doing loops, and then he's on the run right close to the sideline. He throws a dart to Jefferson, and he runs it back for a touchdown. It's just like things like that. Those are the things that you don't see. Those are the things that translate to the NFL. But I don't think you necessarily are you learn those and become a perfectionist. You can get better at it. Some of it I think you're just born with. And Joe and Tom was the same way, not to that extent, but the way he moved in the pocket, the subtle movements, the subtle up in the pocket, the subtle right, the 1-2 throw, like it you were born with that. I think you can learn it, but you can't become a perfectionist at it.
Yeah, I think by and large, the stuff you mentioned about Burrow does not translate well to the NFL, and that's what hurts most quarterbacks.
That's why he's elite. That's why he's elite.
Yeah, he's toned it down a little bit. The ability to move in the pocket is far more important than the ability to get out of the pocket. The last few years, prior to these last 2 years, the NFL created rules where Mahomes, Lamar, and all these guys, Allen, the big plays where they're running out of the pocket all the time, right? But really, the biggest quality is moving in the pocket with your eyes up, right? Mendoza will lower his eyes and do some things. And, the reason I bring it up, because some people have, like you mentioned, of comparing him to Burrow. I don't see that. I see more Goff, right? And that's not, Goff's a good player, right? He's a really good player. I think his arm's close to Goff, and I think, he can, I believe, watching it and in my experience, he can do the things that are good enough to be a pretty damn good quarterback in the NFL. Certainly in this class, worth it. If you jump back 2 years, I'll say this. I'm not taking him over Caleb Williams. I'm not taking him my pre-draft grades. I'm not taking him over Drake May. I'm not even taking him over Bo Nix. I probably would Daniels because I didn't like Daniels, right? I didn't like Daniels. I didn't like Penix, and I really didn't like McCarthy that much. So I think I would take Mendoza over those 3, but I wouldn't the other guys I just mentioned, right? That puts him 4th in a draft class 2 years ago. There's nothing the Raiders can do about that. This draft class is what it is.
Yep.
He's the lone quarterback. You take him, but I don't see a guaranteed star like Kiper did. I don't see that.
No,
So
I don't either.
but we'll see. I don't hate the Raiders now, so we'll see. And I kind of like Kubiak. So some guys I like, this guy, watching the UConn tape, you mentioned they had a really good year. Jim Moore Jr. just left there, but he was the coach there, the receiver you like there. Jim Moore Jr., man, that guy, heck of a coach, right, in college. He's done a good job. He's been around forever. Joe Fagnano, the Italian quarterback for the UConn Huskies. Very similar to Tyler Shuck in terms of age and size. He's 24, 25 years old, played at Maine, played at UConn. I think later on that quarterback might be a pretty good pick for somebody, right? Anthony Hill Jr., linebacker from Texas, also could be an edge. I like him. The big citrus orange, you and I watched play several times at Iowa State. And you hear all the tackle talk, Manoa and Fano from Utah. Nobody's talking about Caleb Lemieux, who was actually the left tackle at Utah. He's a little raw, but I think he might end up being as good a pass blocker as any of the guys I just mentioned at tackle, right? And he'll be later. I think he goes in the first round. I don't see too many people talking about him, but I think he goes in the first round. So that'll be interesting. So to your point about the Bengals, I think there's a very good chance those three are gone. So what do you do as a franchise? That's for argument's sake. I think it's a three-horse race if I'm the guy checking. It doesn't mean it's the Bengals in their mind. It doesn't mean Duke Tobin sees it that way. But for argument's sake, Duke Tobin says it's a three-horse race. I doubt he's smart enough to do that. Yes, I insulted Duke. I doubt he's smart enough to understand that. But Caleb Downs, Reuben Bain, or David Bailey. And you say to yourself, you hear the words, they do get some insight, right? The media, I don't know. The GMs do that. Man, he's not going to be there. I got to trade up to 6. I think I would do it.
Yeah, I do too. They won't.
There's no way.
That's why I bring up trading down and settling for Woods or one of these corners, because it's not in their DNA. They're just not going to do it. It goes back to, having that fire to want to go win a championship, and it starts with free agency, but your future and the pieces that you may need when the season starts with injuries or whatever, it falls in the draft, and they won't look at it like that.
I think, I firmly believe if you get there and you've got, I saw, we'll talk about it, I don't want to ruin the mock drafts, but, Mansour Delaney, I watched him play, posted some video. I think he's a really good player.
I do too.
I don't think he's special. And I think a lot of the drafts, he'd be way down the list in terms of corners. This corner depth is really good. I just don't think it has the elite stars. Receiver has depth, and it does have the elite stars, right? And you look at, if I'm picking there, am I taking Sonny Styles or Mansour? I'm taking Sonny Styles. If I'm forced to stay there, I'm going to stay there. And the big three are gone. I'm taking Sonny Styles. I think he's a better player. I think he's a rare linebacker, rare size, rare traits for linebacker position. And I think he grades out well in terms of pass linebackers. And he's certainly better than either one of them they have. That's the route I would go. We'll get to those mock drafts here shortly. So interesting. I think they set back, and, I'm excited. Don't get me wrong. I'm excited about this draft. I'm excited about this season for the Bengals, this off season. Then it creeps into you every once in a while. Hey, they're still the Bengals. Hey, it's still Duke Tobin. And then you're like, oh, shit, they're going to blow this. They're not going to be aggressive. So the first marking will be in free agency, right? What do? We'll find out what their real mindset is. Because he said this last year. We'll see what he says next week at the Combine. Last year at the Combine, we're going to be aggressive. We can't have the same team, blah, 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 blah. They didn't do anything he said. Then the heat's on, right? The heat is really turned up high on him this year. So let's look at some mock drafts here. I'll go over a few of them. So Charles Davis, we'll start with him. I like Charles Davis. Nice guy. Met him, nice guy. So we'll slow it down a little bit, and some of these guys I'll just run through them because, they're not the bigger name guys, no offense to them. And I'll do my mock draft, which is in print, or we'll do Charles Davis. So Davis picks Mendoza to the Raiders. I think we've talked about him enough. So the Jets, you're seeing a lot of teams now, or a lot of media guys talk about the Jets and kind of compare Arvell Reese to David Bailey. Fairly so. The Jets are doing it. This is not a given that the Jets are taking Arvell Reese. But the more and more I watch of it, the more and more I think about it, the more tape I watch of it, the more I break them down. I think Arvell Reese, in terms of high ceiling, has a much higher ceiling. His length, they're similar size, right? You hear the criticism for Reese in terms of his size, coming in, but he does some rare things. If I was the Jets, if you don't trade down, which I don't think you can in this draft up there, I think I'm taking Reese. What would you do if you are the New York Jets?
Yeah, I'd take him, but I think you can trade down. I think someone will want to maybe move up. Yeah. I think there might be one or two that might out of the top 10 that
so.
may want to move up in there. Yeah. And you could still drop down and get Bailey or Baines, or Downs. And I think be pretty close to being as good off and get more draft picks. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Reese is the guy for the Jets. And yeah, we'll see here in what, 2 months?
Yeah, it's coming quick. Combine next week. This is an interesting combine because it does matter. There's some guys that are labeled as tweeners and stuff, so how they measure is going to be more important. Some guys that they're not sure if they're fast enough. It does matter, right? Because it's tiebreakers. I don't think you degrade a guy unless he comes like Orlando Brown. You remember his 40?
Yeah.
He got hammered, right? He's turned out to be a pretty damn good player.
Yeah.
I do think the measurements and stuff are going to matter this week on several guys. My guy, Mekhi Lemon, one of them. So I don't know that the demand's here for a big trade up. I just don't think it's there because I think so many teams view these guys very similar, and I don't think they're going to give up typical draft capital to move up. We're going to find out. But I think the zaniness will be there because there's going to be surprise picks, right? It's not going to go as everyone says. So Arizona and Charles Davis has got Mainoa going there, and that's the popular pick. He's a right guard or a right tackle, right? And he's a blocking machine. Pass block, I don't know, man. I just don't think in some drafts, I just don't think he goes this high. And let me be clear. I'm not knocking this draft class because I think it's pretty damn good. I just think at those positions that matter the most, the elite talent's not there, right? The left tackle's not there. The ones that everybody, the bona fide, no doubt Myles Garrett's not there. The quarterback position is not there, right? You follow me?
Yep.
That's what's going to draw those high trade up, and we're not giving out. Like the Raiders aren't going to trade out probably. So we'll see. Tennessee, you got new coaches there, defense. He's got Salah. He wants to put somebody besides Jeffrey Simmons, who's a beast. He's got David Bailey going there. Spencer Fano, the tackle, again, right tackle. Some say that doesn't matter anymore. I disagree, man. I disagree. Maybe not like it used to. Fano to the Giants. I could see them going a lot of rounds. Mekhi Lemon, I picked him high, and when we did the draft and I put him high on ours, Charles Bailey thinks he's going to be the first receiver picked. I think this combine means something for him, size-wise and everything else. But he's got the Browns taking Lemon. I'll get through the top 10. We'll talk about Delane to the Commanders, which would be good for us. Carnell Tate, 2 receivers in the top 10. Carnell Tate to New Orleans. I can see that. They only got Olave right now. And they want to develop that quarterback. Kellen Moore did a nice job. Reuben Bain Jr. to Kansas City. That would be bad, but could happen. He's got the Bengals. Here's the shocker. Caleb Downs is on the clock, Stevie boy. Charles Davis says no. Sonny Styles, linebacker, Ohio State. I'll read what he says and we can discuss it. Playmakers are needed on all 3 levels of the defense, which we talked about earlier. I know the Bengals spent 2nd and 4th round picks on linebackers in last year's draft, but Styles is a top 5 talent that cannot pass up. Your thoughts?
I think it all depends on what they do in free agency. If they don't go out and get a starting linebacker in free agency, I can see that, but I would not take him over Downs. I just wouldn't.
Nope. I think Caleb Downs going 11th to Miami, and we'll stop on Charles. Here's my thoughts on it, and I don't think I'm the Lone Ranger here by any means, but I'm working on my top 30 players, right, which is tough to do because you try not to weight positions like quarterback and that kind of stuff. But I think Caleb Downs, I believe when I'm finished, Caleb Downs will be the top player on my board. That's what I believe. So, no, I wouldn't pass on. So here's a guy from CBS Fornelli. He's got Bain going at 4. Mekhi Lemon to the Browns as well. David Bailey 7th to the Commanders. Love to the Saints. Carnell Tate, Kansas City. Caleb Downs to your Cincinnati Bengals. I believe McShay did his top whatever, and he thinks that Jeremiah Love is the top player on the board. He was getting questioned on it, but he thinks that he is ranked evenly with Bijan Robinson.
We'll see. I don't know.
That's the thing if Mekhi Lemon, for example, let's think about this. If Mekhi Lemon is really Amon-Ra St. Brown. Are you picking him top 10? Yeah. He went in the 4th round, St. Brown did. So
Yeah.
they get caught up in all this stuff, safeties. Like, if Caleb Downs is really Earl Thomas or the safety, plays the safety, what's Hamilton, whatever, for the Baltimore Ravens, if he's Palomalu, are you taking him in the top 10? You're taking him higher than that.
Yeah. Top 3.
You get all that in my air down. We're going to talk about these guys later. Oh, some guy had him going 6th, 7th round on NFL.com back then. Maybe a backup, he said. He's one of the best that's ever played the game.
Yeah.
So you devalue these positions, which we talked about, ad nauseum, maybe. Sorry, if so. Defensive tackle, safety, and all these guys, you devalue them. But 3 years from now, wow, if we could do it all over, we took him in top 5. You see what I'm saying? Like, It doesn't make any sense. So NFL.com, Daniel Jeremiah, who dogged Downs for a bit, has him going 10 to the Bengals, love going 9 to Kansas City. I hate that. Mekhi Lemon, he's got Reese falling to the Commanders at 7. Fano Tate, 4th. Ruben Main Jr., 3. Manoa. David Bailey going 2nd. So interesting. And then, the Athletic did a combination of all the writers, so I'm sure it's the year, which I'm hitting this on Paul. I like him as a person, but some of his takes are a little weird. He's got Sonny Styles going to the Bengals as well. Interesting, right? Interesting. Combine list is out. Who's going to be there? So let's look at mine real quick. We'll talk about my mock draft, Stevie Boy. The only one that matters, by far better than the others. Mendoza, Reese, Manoa, Mekhi Lemon, 4th to Tennessee. Fan of the Giants, Carnell Tate to the Browns, David Bailey to the Commanders, Jeremiah Love to the Saints, Caleb Downs to the Chiefs. Caleb Downs to the Chiefs. Hate that. Hate seeing there when you Spagnuolo.
Yeah.
I think Spagnuolo would. Thing with that is Kansas City, man, their offense needs to improve. I could see him going offense and surprising everybody. Honestly, I could see them taking Sadiq or somebody there. Kansas City doesn't do what everybody thinks, right? They never have. Really. They surprise people. And then I got the Bengals going Ruben Bain at 10th, which would be great.
Yes.
Jeremiah Love, let's go back and talk about it. Let's say the big 3 is off the board. Say it together. The big 3 is off the board. And surprising players go whatever. Maybe Styles even gets picked. Now you're down to Mansur Delane or Jeremiah Love and the Bengals at 10, and you have no offers to trade down. What are you doing?
I think we did this a few weeks ago. I
know where I'm going.
I mean, I'm probably drafting Love.
I'm definitely drafting.
Yeah. I mean, he's so young, and you're going to have control of him for 5 years. Yeah, probably. I mean, Chase's contract's coming up. He's probably going to want $10 million a year. So yeah, probably Love.
Here's what I think about Mekhi Lemon.
I don't want that to happen. That's why I'm like, ugh.
And even Lemon, I wouldn't do it there, I don't think. But I think Mekhi Lemon will be one of the better slot receivers as a rookie. I firmly believe that.
Very
I think
possible.
Jeremiah Love is going to be one of the best running backs out of the gate. Day one. He steps on the field in April mini camps, rookie camps. I think he's one of the best running backs in the league. What does that do for an offense?
A lot.
What's it done the last 2 years in offense? Who's carrying it? Who's got the trophies and the mantles right now? In the mantle. With, we can have this argument with other people, whatever. I think Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, Hurts is an average quarterback. At best. Very good athlete. Can run the ball. Average quarterback. I think Sam Darnold's maybe in that system slightly above average quarterback. Nowhere. Neither one of them are sniffing top 10 quarterbacks, in my opinion. They both have championships, right? Part of that's their defense, for sure. What helps a good defense? What helps a defense, Stevie boy?
Pass rush.
What helps them on the other side of the ball? Run game.
Run game.
You can run the ball, control the clock, get a lead, control the clock, and the old Indy style, right? You get the lead, then you unleash the pass rushers. I think Love is going to be a special player. I do think it's a good running back.
I agree.
So you never know, right? How these things going to. I mean, I could see Love going top 5, right? For what I want, and I believe you want, we want Love to go before that. Mm-hmm. I think he will.
and we want Lemon and all them guys to be up there to push these rest of these guys down.
2 tackles, 2 receivers. Reese, quarterback.
Love.
Then you're getting into the vicinity whether he's going to be there. But
Yeah.
I don't want Love to go to Kansas City. I don't want
Oh,
that.
no.
Nah.
I really don't want any of these guys to go to Kansas City.
Yeah.
Maybe a tackle.
Yeah, maybe they take Fano or somebody like that.
Yeah.
But, so it's going to be interesting. We'll do some more mock drafts. We'll get what we're going to do over the course of the next few episodes. I think we got the production stuff cleared up, but what we're going to do is dig deeper into the draft, not just first round, right? So Housey, the safety from LSU, will be at the combine this week. That's the guy I want you to watch. He's going to be at the combine. There's going to be some guys that are really some testers there that are going to do very well and change the whole narrative of everything, right? And we didn't really have the time, and we didn't want to get into it this episode, but you look at those old draft capsules, a lot of guys up their value by the combine. And just because you're a good track athlete doesn't make you a good football player, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how that is. I do want to see how the safety from LSU weighs in and what he looks like, what his 40 is. I think Lemon's height's going to matter. Love probably won't run. A lot of the downs probably won't either. I doubt it. Those guys wait for the pro days, but they'll do some stuff. You'll get the measurements. And I think Caleb Downs is going to be heavier and thicker than a lot of the safeties that they're comparing to, right? I think he's going to be bigger, and that's the difference. So are you still three guys or bust, Stevie boy? Is that where you're at?
I wouldn't call it bust. It just all keeps going back to free agency. Like if they go out and they get the guys that they need, because like I said it a few episodes ago, when the draft comes, they need to have a starting defense. That's what they need. The draft is just going to make them better, and that's what they need. That's where they need to be when the draft gets there. So I mean, whether it's Styles or Delaney, the corners, hell, even Love, right? I mean, if they're drafting them guys and it's just going to put them to a new level, then okay, then I'm fine. But no, it's those 3 guys, is where I want, on where I think they're going to be free agency. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
They're going to have a hole,
Yeah, there's
and
only so
it's
much
going to be one of them holes, right?
It's
In my
similar to the
opinion.
draft. There's only so many players out there, and then you don't get to pick them, right? They get to pick where they want to go. So there's only so many. We went through it. There's some hidden gems there, like the Chanel kid, the linebacker. For me, it's the 3-horse race clear. Downs being number 1, but if they do trade down, those 3 are gone. Just trade down and go take McDonald, the defensive tackle. You get a guy like him, what he does for a defense, you get a dominant. I think he's going to be a very good, high-end defensive tackle in the NFL. That's
And he's young too. I think he'll be 21 during the season or toward the end of the season. So he's young. He's only a junior, right?
Yeah, he's coming out early.
Yeah. So I mean, yes. And on the mocks that I've done, I've only came out 3 or 4 picks, right? I mean, who says they can't go down to 17, 18, 19, 20? You know what I mean? I mean, they can do that. I mean, that's fine. Because I think McDonald consensus is around that 20-ish, maybe a little bit more. I think he's better than that, but I think that's where consensus has him. So if you haven't seen me, I'm doing air quotes, consensus. So we'll see. Yeah, but if you can trade down that far and get a guy like that and you're full in free agency, roll with her.
6'3", 326 is what he's supposed to measure. And it'll be interesting to see what he has. He's 20 years old, turns 21 in March, so he's going to be 21 years old his rookie year. Player comps I saw on the NFL, I think Zerline did it. DJ Reader, ironically.
Yep.
So that's a pretty good player comp. I mean, if he's DJ Reader, you take him, be happy to go with it.
100%.
Absolutely. So that's it for today, folks. We got a lot more upcoming, a lot more draft coverage, a lot more free agency coverage. We're getting close to free agency, man. We'll be here for that one. We may take that, tampering days off, one of them off, and do a show that day. So watch what's happening. There's going to be rumors galore. So all we want is aggressive play from your Cincinnati Bengals. Looking forward to it. Take us home, Stevie boy.
All slow traffic. Stay to the right. Peace out.